Hello and welcome to this special edition of Arch Eats. I'm your host, George Mahey, and alongside is my co-host and co-dining companion.
So many co's there. I was waiting for even more. This is Cheryl Bear.
And we're here today with some breaking restaurant news, namely the long-awaited return of one of the city's most popular chefs, a guy who's continuing to chase his passion by opening another restaurant. He opened up the city's first traditional Neapolitan pizzeria 17 years ago, a place called The Good Pie. He and his wife Liz, there's a hint, subsequently opened 2 locations of the breakfast and lunch restaurant called Half and Half, a handful of other renowned restaurants, including Randolph's, Pubblico, Provato, Medianoche, and Little Country Gentleman. Welcome, Mike Randolph, to Arch Eats.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for thinking of me, and yeah, I'm excited to get back in the game.
Well, let's get right to the big news of the day. We won't bury the lead. A lot of people in this town will be happy to hear that you're opening another restaurant, specifically a pizza place. So let's talk about that, and then we'll get into the where the hell have you been for the last 3 years?
Sure. So yeah, as you mentioned, the Good Pie was kind of our first foray into restaurants. We were young, brash, didn't really understand the city too well. I didn't have this comprehension of what St. Louis pizza meant, which is crispy, thin. And so we ended up bringing in kind of the polar opposite. But since then, I've been chasing the perfect pizza. I'm not sure it exists, and I'm pretty sure I'll never get there, but we're excited to get back in the chase.
So what's the name of this place? Where is it? And when will it open?
So the name of the place is Nettie's, named after my great aunt. It is in Clayton, 33 North Central. We're excited to open by early June and get open for the summer.
Why Nettie? Why does she have significance in your life?
So Nettie was my grandfather's sister, kind of the traditional immigrant Italian family story, first generation, 13 siblings. And my Aunt Nettie, I have some great fond memories of her, but every time you went to her house, it smelled like tomatoes, basil, oregano, stuff that she grew in her backyard. And she always had a little oil on the stove, and she would fry us up pizza frites, which were just fried pizza dough dusted in powdered sugar. And she would always have those, I remember, in a brown Kroger bag for us.
It's classic.
That's
Sure.
great. That's awesome.
And I guess my favorite story of Nettie's is showing up at a family reunion with a bag of rallies and her and my other aunt throwing me in the pool.
Like physically threw you in a
they
pool.
were little people, but
Oh
yeah,
my
they just...
They didn't care for rallies, I
Well,
take
they
it?
thought it was insulting given they had a huge spread of stuff that, family traditions.
Oh, that's hilarious. So I think a lot of people are going to hear Mike Randolph's doing pizza, and they're instantly going to go to the Good Pie. So please let people know what this concept is.
Sure. I mean, so we were really jazzed, Teddy Wilson and I, 16, 17 years old, to kind of like bring our ideals to St. Louis. We were trained by a traditional Napolitano, Roberto Capruzio. We were certified by the VPN. We used the right flours. Anyway, we chased that. And since then, I've had an opportunity to continue that journey at Randolph's. And then while I've been off the radar a little bit, I've had a chance to do 2 separate pizza consulting jobs and just kind of honing the vision. And I guess visually holding on to that Good Pie style pizza, but changing the process, changing the flour, and trying to come up with something that has a little more structural integrity. So a pizza you can hold up, a pizza that can be delivered. And we're hopeful a pizza that kind of meets in the middle between St. Louis style, New York style a little bit.
But no Provel.
No Provel unless we're having fun on a Friday
I
or
like
Saturday.
it. I love it.
Run through the menu a little bit. How many pizzas, what size, what price, and really what makes them different?
We're trying intentionally to keep the menu very simple. So we'll do, maybe 4 or 5 appetizers, simple stuff. And then we're going to try to do 10 pizzas. And I think the way we're going to accomplish that is to have 4 base pizzas that you can add on to, and then 6 things that'll be reminiscent of what I've done over the years.
So what are the basics? Are they like a margarita and a...
Yeah.
Pepperoni or whatever?
No, the
or,
4 basics, and you can add pepperoni, sausage, mushrooms, anchovies, prosciutto, whatever you want to add to it. But we have the basic margarita, so San Marzano's fresh fior latte and basil, always a little bit of olive oil. We have the marinara, which is just a red sauce pizza that's kind of fried onto the dough with some
Mhm.
good olive oil. We'll put a little oregano, chili flake, and garlic on that. We have the Bianco, which I've been really into recently, which is olive oil, Parmesan, garlic, and mozzarella. And then we have one that I'm really partial to right now, which we call the mom pie. And so it's actually a shredded mozzarella, garlic, oregano, and then we take the sauce kind of Connecticut style and put that on top.
And what's your sauce like? Is it cooked? Is it uncooked? Is it very basic? Is it gussied up?
No, so sometimes it's embarrassing to give my sauce recipe, but we it starts with really good tomatoes.
That's the best
Yeah,
sauce,
yeah,
right?
we put them through a food processor, a little bit of basil and salt, and that's it. So
Mhm.
it's uncooked.
And you've got the base pies and then a few toppings that you will put on in addition, but not very many. You
No,
don't have a 20 ingredient topping list.
No, so we'll have a focus. We're trying to keep kind of what we call the mise en place reasonable. We're trying to control as much as we can control so we can pass that on to prices for the customers. But then, yeah, beyond those four pizzas, we're going to have things like the good pie mushroom pizza, roasted in the oven, herbs, taleggio
Oh,
cheese. We're
wonderful.
going to
That
do,
sounds familiar.
yeah, so we've done that one. We're going to have a kale pizza, which is kind of a Bianco base,
Mm.
garlic, and some kale that's roasted in the oven. We're going to do a sausage, smoked cheese, and caramelized onions. So, yeah, we're going to do some of the greatest hits, the prosciutto arugula, but I'm really trying to focus it so we have 9 or 10 pizzas. And so that when you come in and read the menu board, you don't need a culinary dictionary to figure out what we're serving.
So smart. And you said you really thought that 10 or 11 pizzas is the right number, both for you as a producer and for the customer, as far as trying to just figure out what's going on there.
And a lot of that comes from, like I said, when Teddy and I opened the original Good Pie, we were trying to prove a point. And so I think to an extent, when you came in and read our menu, maybe you did have to ask a lot of questions. And so we want it to be simple. If somebody comes in and says, I just want a sausage pizza, mom pie with sausage, let's go.
Boom, done.
Yeah.
What's the price point? Lately, I've seen some $30 pizzas out there.
Look, I'm sure these $25, $30 pizzas are great. That's not going to be us. We're going to start pizzas, we hope, around $14 or $15. That way, if you add on sausage, pepperoni, you're still at a reasonable price point. We're going to try to stay under the 21, 22 number. And really, the only way that we're going to get over $20 is if you get some beautiful fresh prosciutto on top.
You've talked about structure and you've talked about how Neapolitan pizza, you're definitely not going there. You have to knife and fork it. You don't
Sure.
knife and fork because you're trying to be dignified. You knife and fork because you literally cannot pick it up. Will there still be the char speckle that you get? What should people expect as far as the actual pizza itself?
Visually, what's it going to
Yeah.
look like?
So
too?
visually, I think it's going to look very similar to what we had at the Good Pie. So
Mhm.
we're going to cook it very quickly at around 900, 930
wow.
degrees.
Mhm.
And then we're going to throw it in a Marsal deck oven, a big, beautiful pizza oven,
Mm.
where it'll cook for another 3 to 5 minutes at a lower temperature. We messed with the dough, so we use something called a biga, which helps get some structure. We switched from the caputo to a different hard wheat flour. So yeah, it was really important to us. Like when we opened the Good Pie, we used to say we're not going to do pizzas to go, right?
Mhm.
We had it all figured out and we wanted you to come in. It wasn't cut. If you wanted a pizza cutter, we'd begrudgingly give it to you. And we just found out that that was a hard sell in St. Louis.
Especially now with the preponderance of delivery pizza, with
Sure.
DoorDash, with guys picking things up.
No, I mean, we're really looking to fill a void in the central corridor. You know, our dining room is small. It's meant to be fast casual. It's counter service. And as you mentioned, it's important to us to do to go and delivery business. So we really want a pizza that when you get it 25, 30 minutes later, it's not just a sloppy mess.
Let me back you up to the cooking process. So these pizzas will be cooked in 2 separate ovens. That's somewhat unusual, isn't it?
And so that just comes from years of experience. I had a chance, actually, it was really fun to spend about 4 or 5 months out in Bozeman, Montana, actually staying in a hotel where I was the only one there and it was dropping snow and it was very kind of the shining. So we had these constraints there. We were on the 5th floor and structurally we couldn't get a Neapolitan pizza oven in there.
Ah.
So we found these little fire ovens, they call them, and figured out that in that application, we were cooking pizzas in about a minute and a half. and they were more structurally intact, but I wanted more than that. And so I started messing around with cooking them at home in my rock box or my dome, and then transferring them to an oven at 500 degrees. And the impetus for that is, like I said, to have a pizza that when you get it to your house and you hold up a slice, ideally you'll fold it in the middle, but when you hold up that slice, unlike the good pie and traditional Neapolitan pizzas, hopefully it doesn't just slide off the front.
And then all the toppings slide too with it.
And
Yeah.
as far as the toppings go, just for that structural integrity, you can't add 27 things at the top of the pizza, because then we don't feel like we can slap our name on it. And so as far as the toppings and the visuals, when you open that box, it should be very reminiscent of the pizza that I've always done. Not scantily topped, but an amount of toppings that'll be familiar.
But these pizzas, unlike your other pizzas, will not be wood-fired pizzas. These are not wood-burning ovens.
Correct, they're not. And so the fire is this little gizmo that heats top and bottom.
Called gas?
It's well, if you're a traditionalist and you look at what we call the upskirt for the leoparding, that's going to look different, right? And we do that because we want that to be a more structural pie for you. And so it cooks in that. And I think in the dining room, that's a really good pizza. But in terms of taking it for delivery or to go, that's why we throw it in another oven to kind of like, again, just for lack of a better term, to crisp it up a bit.
What about, I know you mentioned salads. You said pizza and salads. Are there going to be other items on the menu people can expect? Will there be pasta, sandwiches, anything like that?
You know, Italian's always been soul food for me. It's what I grew up with. That's the side of the family I was raised by. Obviously, originally we were the Randolphs, and that got changed when we came over. You know, in a perfect world, if we're humming and we feel good, then we will do maybe some family style pastas. And when we do that, it'll be extruded, and I'll probably be the one cooking them. But we've also been taking the old dough and proofing it, and we think that we're going to have a rotating thing of maybe 4 or 5 more kind of Roman style pizzas. And so when you walk in, there'll be a display of that, and we'll be able to slice those up with a scissor and throw them right into the oven. And the reason we do that is for lunch. You know, even though our pizzas we think are going to take 7 or 8 minutes to get to you, for these, you can see them, you can get them in a minute and a half wrapped up with the salad.
And in Clayton, that's important.
Sure, we want to be
People
able
can just
yeah.
in and out, boom.
We
you're
want to
done.
be able to go fast. And I have a daughter that's in high school in Clayton. And if anybody's familiar with the open campus, downtown Clayton is their cafeteria. And so it's really important to me that if that's what they want, they can walk through the line, right? And in 3 or 4 minutes, they're out the door with a lunch.
You talk about fast casual. What's the atmosphere in general going to be like? What can people expect? Even just colors, feel of the place, setup.
Sure,
that.
sure.
How big is the space?
It was about 60 seats, and then kind of traditional, my style, we jumped out about 15 or 20 feet to build our open production area. So I think it's going to be about 45 comfortable seats. The color scheme is kind of shades of blue with a lot of rustic features, blue and white checkered tablecloths, pepper shakers, Parmesan, kind of familiar.
Old school.
Well, you know, with the name, we want to evoke a certain feeling so that when you walk in, you have this homey Italian vibe. And then when you see the space, ideally, once you look at it, inherently, you know where you are, right? And you have this idea before you get to the register of what to expect.
And you've always liked this open kitchen concept instead of hiding the guys in the back behind the double doors.
Yeah, I think it's fun to see the production. I think it's fun to have this interaction with the people that are making your food, actually personalize them a little bit. And then another thing that I love about the open kitchen, and I learned this phrase from Vince Bomarito, you have to clean while it's clean. There's no place to hide in an open kitchen.
Watch your language, watch your countertop, watch everything, because they're watching you.
Yeah, 100%. To me, one of the added bonuses of an open kitchen is there's no place to hide a mess.
So when you walk in, is there a counter or is there a line? Or how? You
Sure,
said walk
sure.
the line. What does that mean?
So you'll walk in through kind of intentional corridor that's open on one side into the dining room, but you'll have about a 6-foot berth. You'll see the menu board. You'll walk up to the cash register. You know, I'm going to go out on a limb here. If anybody's been to Grassi's, it's one of my favorite restaurants in town. And so you walk in, you order, Your salads are sitting there in 2 bowls, and you get those almost instantly as soon as you order. And then as you move down the line, you see the production area. And so if you go Roman style, you can walk out with that almost immediately. Otherwise, you're going to see your pizza made probably in under 10 minutes.
I love that. You walk the line and they're tossing that salad like Grazie's, I guess, tossing it to order. But when it gets busier, you're going to make kind of a bulk salad. And there's 20 people coming through the line. You can make 15 salads right now and serve them in 5 minutes.
100%. And so that's what I love about that. You order, you get your drink, and immediately you get your salad. And so traditional to what I've always done, arugula, lemon vinaigrette, Parmesan. And then we're going to do house Nettie's salad, which will be really simple. Lettuce, cucumbers, pimentos, and then a house Italian dressing, very similar to what we had at Randolph's. I mean, one of the main things about this is we do not want to confuse anyone. And if someone walks in and they are confused and they say, I just want a pepperoni pizza, done. We got you. No more questions asked.
Will you do any desserts?
Sure. So we talked about the pizza frites. We're going to do the pizza frites. So those will be served in brown paper, puffed up dough, and then a dusting of powdered sugar. And then I like to add a little bit of honey that's been seasoned with star of anise.
Just sounds so
The most adventurous thing we'll do, and this will be really polarizing and certainly let you know that we've deviated from those Neapolitan roots. We're going to do an andouille pizza with pineapple. Take it as you will. You can say all sorts of nasty things about me, but I love the combination of spicy and sweet on a pizza.
I mean, the balance of those two, they go hand in hand. That's even than Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah, I was going to say Hawaiian is the most polarizing, but this is coming in a close second.
Yeah. So again, if you wanted any proof that I've moved on from those traditional roots, the fact that there's going to be pineapple on the menu.
Do you think that's a personal change? I'm just wondering, the Good Pie was very much, we are a VPN pizzeria. We are doing this in the way it is supposed to be done. We are certified. We are telling you how to enjoy your pizza. I feel like that's a very specific approach to a restaurant, whereas this seems like it's a little bit more meeting people where they are. So I'm just kind of curious if you feel that that's been an evolution in your approach, or if that's just something you've seen diners are more interested in right now.
So if I really had to just give you a very simple answer to that, when we opened the Good Pie, we wanted to give people what we wanted. And so when we open Nettie's, we're very intent on giving people what they want.
And the Good Pie worked, but I remember in the day you said it was a hard sell. You were basically teaching everybody what Neapolitan pizza was, and some of them bought into it and some of them didn't.
And I think beyond that, we were young, we were figuring it out. Neither of us had done this on our own yet, and we were idealistic, and we wanted people to eat what we wanted them to eat, right? And so I think the difference, the evolution over those so no open bottles, but certainly a selection of beers, a couple of non-alcoholic beers, and some good wines. I think that, there's so much stuff in the market in splits or cans these days. It's amazing. And then beyond that, something in a frozen drink machine.
In that location on Central, is there any sidewalk seating available? Is that doable where you are?
I think in the summer, it's really advantageous in a couple ways because let's say you put a colorful table or two out.
That's all you need.
Even if it's just 4 or 6 seats, right? Visually, it's grabbing.
It's a beacon, and you need that.
Look, I mean, we're on Central. There are probably close to 300 apartment or condo units either above us or directly adjacent to us. And then if you're familiar with that street, it's always double parked with Grubhub guys. It's always double parked with takeout stuff. And so I think that there's maybe a need in Clayton for fast pizza at a reasonable price. And so we're excited about the location. Visually, aside from the few tables outside in the summer, it's going to be very simple. The sign is going to be big, bold letters that say pizza.
That's all you need, baby.
Nettie's on every corner. Is that the goal, or are you like one and done?
No,
What's your vision?
look, I mean, that's not something I let myself think about, although I will say we were cognizant of that possibility as we built. And so we look at this as certainly the mothership, but did we think about the possibility to bottle it up, to put it in separate locations, maybe in a smaller spot? Certainly, yeah. We think that the concept, the production idea, the ergonomics of what we're building are certainly transferable, and hopefully it happens. But again, first we got to crawl, then we got to walk, then we got to
Sure.
run. And I never want to be 16 months in and push an expansion and get overwhelmed.
That's smart.
We'll be right back.
Join St. Louis Magazine executive editor Sarah Fensky on the 314 podcast for conversations that dig into why things are the way they are in St. Louis and how we can make them better. From the stories that inspire us to the challenges that push us, the 314 podcast celebrates the good, confronts the bad, and untangles the complicated. Listen and follow on your favorite podcast platform or visit stlmag.com/podcasts. And now, back to the show.
You've been off local radar for a while. I guess why? I know you've done a couple pop-ups, but that's really all anybody's seen of Mike Randolph in the last couple of years. So where the hell you been?
Look, it was very, very difficult to walk away from the Del Mar Loop. You know, I love what the Loop has become. I think there's amazing mom and pop restaurants in the Loop. Corner 17 is one of my favorite spots in the city. But, you know, as St. Louis is 4 years on your personal guarantee. And once we got to that, we had to look at either reinvesting in the space or unfortunately looking at the safety or the perceived safety of our customers. And at that point, the Loop had fallen on a couple of hard times.
Yeah.
And to be frank, that back parking lot, we used to get calls at Publico at 7:15 that they had a 7 o'clock and they couldn't park. By the last couple of months, Cicero's had closed, the parking lot was empty. And, you know, through those two lions, we found that very few of our customers were coming down the hill anymore.
But you have managed to stay relevant by doing pop-ups. Not a lot, but I know you've done several in the last couple months and several, I think, in the past year.
Yeah.
Are you going to continue to do that? Is this that kind of scratch an itch that the pizza thing doesn't?
Sure. We call it the charlatan. I think anybody that knows me would understand that name. And it fits on a couple of reasons because we don't have the bravado build. We don't have a beautiful Ted Collier piece of artwork looking over the dining room and this setting that was inherently set for tasting menus. But what we do have is this cool setting at Half and Half. People are familiar. I'm very proud of Half and Half 13 years later. It's a hustle bustle. I mean, 400 or 500 people will go through that restaurant on a Saturday. But maybe 6 hours later, when you walk in, that area directly in front of the kitchen now, imagine the chairs are up in the dining room, the lights are low, and now you're getting this unique, intimate experience. So we're really trying to flip what we don't have into a positive for what we do have. And as far as what we do there, yeah, I like doing multiple courses. And so some of it is certainly similar to Bravado in the sense that we have a choreographed soundtrack. We know where we are in the meal based on that. We're really intent on getting you out of there in 2.5 hours so you can get home to your babysitter by 10 o'clock. And then beyond that, we have fun with it. And I have a couple of great cooks that have gone on to do other things that make themselves available to do these dinners. And so we have a lot of fun with it. At first, it was very discouraging for me because I don't have a full-time staff 4 days a week. So I was doing all the prep throughout the week. And I just felt like I couldn't meet that standard. And so we've learned a lot from that over the years. And now we're able to do, you know, food that we're very proud of, 8, 10, 12 courses, and stay sharp, as you said.
So the pop-ups sounds like they'll continue. Nettie's will obviously continue. Where do you go when you go out? You mentioned Grassi's. When you go out for a meal in St. Louis, where do you like to go?
So I've been asked this question a million times, and to be truthful, what I say never makes it into the press.
It just, whatever it is,
We
just
break
yeah,
that here. This
um,
is going to happen.
it just
the truth
did.
comes out.
So
let's see what he says.
So yeah, Grassi's, they know me in there. The roast beef and a salad. I want the olives and I want the croutons. I love pretzels. I think that the Reuben at Pretzels, Black Cherry, Dr. Brown is amazing.
Got two people nodding
Oh,
across
yeah.
the
I think
table from me
Pretzel's
for sure.
gold
But
standard.
with both of those,
Yes.
Grazi's, it hides back there. A lot of people don't know where it is or what it does, but boy, they do the same thing every day perfectly.
Yeah. And look, I'm excited to have an avenue just to talk about these places.
Right.
We were at Carl's. We were driving down Manchester and it's like, well, let's stop in. You get a root beer float. They tell you how to drink it. You get a couple of burgers with everything. And I love the tamales there, so I get a tamale as well.
For a lot of us, your places were places like that. To put you on the spot here, did you have a favorite? We've got Randolph's, Publico, Privado, Medianoche, Half and Half. A Little Country Gentleman snuck in there. You've had a lot going on, and all of them were successful in their own right. I remember all of them
Oh gosh, I mean,
fondly.
I couldn't answer this question. They weren't my restaurant, so this has to be
Sure.
incredibly
So I've
hard.
never been one of those people that finds a location and then fits a concept into
Mhm.
it. Every concept that I've done, we have found a way to make it work in that
Mhm.
location. And so I guess if I had to answer that, cooking at Little Country Gentleman with Dan Parcelletti and John Messberger, that was so much fun. And so I just love that. I miss Publico. I miss
Oh,
the energy.
you're not the only
Um,
one.
Medianoche was always built to be kind of a place to, I remember Dale Beauchamp and I writing down on paper, how do we turn this into what we really want? And then the name came, and then the space started to develop, and we wanted that big bar, and we wanted energy, and we wanted open kitchen. We wanted to be the first people in town to cook over open flames. And I take pride in that. We had a fire, we move embers, we had a smoker. And a side note, there was no gas run to the kitchen at either Randolph's or Public.
Oh, get out. Wow.
All wood?
Yeah, all wood. And we had some induction to cook the pastas
Wow.
at Randolph's.
Solid
Certainly.
fuel and induction burners. I never knew
Wow.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So not a single gas line to either of those kitchens.
That's incredible.
You're ready to jump into this. And Cheryl and I look at each other, and we love that people are still getting into the business, but are amazed that people are still getting into the business with everything that continues to happen. So what's the condition of the industry right now, if I can put you on the spot? Is it a time to get into the industry, or should people just lay back and let things settle down a little bit?
So this is a question you're probably going to have to cut me off on.
We can do that too.
So I'm 44 years old. When I came up, it was the school of hard knocks, right? You basically gave a decade of your life, your 20s. You got paid nothing. You spent all your money on tacos, a little bit of booze, knives, and cookbooks. I remember working at what became a Michelin star restaurant in Chicago, 70, 80 hours. We worked really hard. And I'll never forget it. We made $311.62 a week.
Wow.
And that was after you actually got onto payroll. And so for me, yeah, I mean, whether it was in Charleston, South Carolina, working in Chicago, you gave up a better part of the decade to be burnt, berated, promoted, burnt, berated, promoted. And it was like a never ending
Yeah.
cycle. And so whether people wised up or whether people grew tired of it, I think culinary schools are closing. I think that we've gotten to a point where chefs have to evolve. And look, I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I had a reputation for being brash, for being a bit tough to work with, kind of a product of the environment I came up in. And I think what it's become and what I'm excited about is now you have to foster relationships with young people. And I think gone are the days when you say, leave all that at the back door, right? When you're here, you're here. And now it's like, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? Right. And I think it's become, as the workforce shrinks a little bit, I think you need to hire good attitudes and then you need to foster those relationships.
And I think there's a lot of chefs in town now that are doing just that. Is there anybody in town that you just admire the hell out of and say, man, this guy or this woman is just killing it? They know what they're doing. Again, I'm putting you on the spot, but
No, I'm amazed at the consistency that Matt McGuire is able to produce at Louis and Wright's.
so are we.
Yeah.
It's
gold
just, it
standard.
just never stops. But as far as somebody that maybe took on that challenge to maybe get people to eat something for the first time, maybe to not be afraid to take chances, I am amazed at Nick Bogner. I think everything he does is gold. I don't get in there as much because, frankly, with 2 children, we don't go out for those meals anymore. But I've never had a bad bite at Indo. Hannah's down there. She worked for me at Randolph's. She's amazing. I think that Nick, to me, is the one that is still carrying that torch. And he's the one that's legitimately taking chances to challenge diners.
Well, he left town and came back re-energized and reinvigorated. And brought some sushi concepts, dry aging fish, things to St. Louis that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah,
It was
and-
revolutionary stuff.
And we've always had a good relationship, but to be frank, I don't know Nick that well, and he may be surprised to hear this. But like I said, as somebody that took a lot of chances and challenged a lot of diners over the years, I just can't say how much I respect what he's doing.
Well, we respect the hell out of what you're doing. We're glad you're back. We can't wait for Nettie's. It's right in my neighborhood, so I'm especially excited.
So jealous. Well, I might have to see if the pizza holds up to Wildwood. And I don't
mean,
think it might.
Look, because we do the dual temperature, we may say when you order, heat your oven up to 450 and just pop it in there for 3 minutes.
That's what I do at home.
Sure. And I think that's important. I think it's fair to say when you order a pizza, turn your oven on.
We welcome you back to the scene. We welcome you back to Clayton. And everybody loves pizza. Looking forward to Nettie's. Thank you, Mike Randolph.
Yeah, thanks for thinking of me. I really appreciate it.
Be sure to follow us and share with your friends. And we always provide links in the show notes for everything you heard about today. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and follow along on Instagram at St. Louis Mag. And feel free to give us a follow personally at George Mahey and Cheryl A. Bear.
If you loved what you heard, show us some love by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And if you're hungry for even more content, you can subscribe to our dining newsletters for the freshest coverage on the local restaurant and culinary scene.
That's it for this week. Best dishes, and see you next time.